Grace and peace. Good evening, everybody. We are live here on the Remnant Survivor podcast. And I want to welcome all of you that are here on tonight. Thank you for joining. We were trying to delay. Right now, we have not heard from my guest. So we were all set. We had talked this week, so we were all set to come on. However, I just don't know what transpired. I don't know what happened. He is not responded, so I hope everything is okay. and um, I just don't know what to say. I mean, at this point, it's just to seem to be one of them situations. So like I said, I hope he's okay. I didn't get any notification that he wasn't okay or that he would not be on tonight. So, like I said, we talked this week, and I don't know. I don't know what happened. So we'll just hopefully everything's okay with him, and maybe in the future we'll be able to reschedule. First time this has happened. We take these things very seriously. I believe he has a tremendous story to share with you all. I think it'll encourage you. I know it'll encourage you. Some of you might have heard his story, pieces of it anyway. And we were looking forward tonight to having him on. So tonight, I don't have anything else to say. I could get down here and talk, but you didn't come to hear me just just to talk. I always got a lot to say, so I'm never one without something to say, I imagine. But I'm a little surprised that, like I said, I hope he is okay, and I hope that nothing has happened to him. We were scheduled to be on tonight, and so I don't know what happened, to be honest with you. So, nevertheless, thank you all for coming on tonight. I appreciate you setting aside the time. We were really excited about him coming on. So I want to thank all of you. I see that we have Jackie's on, and Lady Yates, and Deaconess Barrett is on, and Lady Chris is on, and some others are on in different in YouTube world. I don't know. Um, I don't know who's on any other platforms. But again, our guest is a no show, and I'm a surprised. I hope he's okay. I hope. I didn't expect this tonight. I thought we were going to. Um, I thought we were going to have a wonderful time tonight. So, like I said, I hope he's okay. I haven't heard anything from him on any level, whether he's okay or not okay. It couldn't make it. Why he couldn't make it? I just haven't heard from him. So, but nevertheless, listen. Next week we'll be back on. Um, we have someone else lined up that we could hear from with an awesome story, and I'll talk to you more about that as the week progresses. But as for tonight, our friend Brother Jay is I don't know I don't know what happened, to be honest with you. I sent him the link and everything, and I don't know what happened. I hope he's okay. I hope everything is good to see Elder Woods. Hope everything is okay. I hope he's okay. I hope that there's no tragedies or any issues with him. Um, so keep him in prayer. Keep him in prayer. The enemy does not want these stories to get out. So for whatever reason, the enemy could really, he does not want these testimonies to get out. So he does play games. Good to see you, Lady Miles. He does play games. He does disrupt things for the sake of trying not to get these testimonies out. The last thing the devil wants you to hear is more examples and more proof that God is still delivering his people, and that the incidents we hear in scripture, the fiery furnace and the 3 Hebrew boys and the lion's den and Daniel and all the miracles that God had performed in the Bible, he does not want you to believe that that's possible today. He wants you to believe that those are just fairy tales and just stories, and God oftentimes raises up people and delivers people with these horrific great escapes for the purposes of fortifying our faith in God. Amen. And these real life instances where the Lord intervenes on our behalf, and he performs these tremendous miracles. The enemy does not want you to hear that. So I don't know why. I don't know why he's not on. Good to see you, Lady V. Fonda. I don't know why what happened. I hope he's okay. But again, this is kind of what happens sometimes with the enemy. He has these ways of trying to intrude and to hurt and to try to stop these testimonies from going forth. Because again, the more you hear about the stories and the experiences of various ones and how God rescued them, it just lends itself another opportunity for you to increase your faith. And that's what the enemy does not want to happen. Good to see you, Elder Dozer. So that's one of the stories. That's one of the things. Listen, since you're here tonight, I got a story. I don't. Since you're here tonight, mine may not be as captivating as our guest tonight. Again, saints of God, those of you who are here, please pray for our guest. I don't know what happened. We were ready to go, confirmed and everything this week, and I don't know what happened today. So we'll keep them in your prayers. I know that, like I said, I know the enemy does not want these stories to get out because they are tremendous. So again, please bear with us. I'm sorry. I apologize that our guest is not here. I don't know. Again, I have no information as to what transpired or what happened. I was pretty confident up until this very moment, actually, that this we're where we are. We are where we are. But nevertheless, I know that things like this really. I'm not surprised at the devil because he does like to disrupt things and testimonies. But I want to share something with you while we're here tonight. I don't have anything, like I said, as captivating as our guest story. But I'm gonna share something with you. All right. So this is my story. This is a part of one of my stories. Some of you might have heard this story before. So bear with me. You're gonna hear a little bit tonight. So I forget what year it was. Lord help me. What year was this? Whew. I could probably, if I did the math, I could probably figure it out. It had to be around 19. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, it had to be 1996 or 7, somewhere around there. And this is part of my story. This is one. I'm going to give you this little nugget. Some of you might have heard this before and might have heard bits and pieces of, but I'm going to give you the whole part of it so that you can see, you can appreciate what it is in its totality. All right. So since our guest is not on, I hope he does reach out at some point and lets me know that he's okay. But anyway, so in 1997 or it might be 98, I can't if I sit down and do the math, I could probably figure it out. But so I was young in ministry. I hadn't started pastoring yet. I was a minister. I was a preacher. And I had 2 children, Whitney and Taylor. And so there was a time in my marriage that my wife at the time and I had separated. And so we went through that whole time of separation, and so there was a lot of things that transpired during that time. And so somewhere along the way, I was kind of on the outs, right? I didn't really have my home church, those in Port Chester and Bethel, we were kind of estranged, and it wasn't very pleasant going there anymore. Pastor Kersey, the person that you saw me do the post with, she was no longer the pastor there. So I remember during this season in my life where I was a young minister, I was having problems with my marriage, really didn't have anyone. Now, mind you, gone through a lot of different counselors and therapy and trying to make this work. So it wasn't just like we just separated. No, we really tried to make this thing work. And like I said, my pastor, Pastor Kersey, wasn't there at the time, and she was, would have been very helpful in this whole situation. But she had moved on to another pastorate, and I was, had kids and stuff. And so her and I and our wasn't as close, didn't talk as much. And so during this time I was, like I said, I was kind of outed, I mean, to be honest, I'm telling you my story. This is part of my story. In the church, men are vilified, right? So no matter what's going on, and I'm not blaming anybody, I'm just telling you how things are and how they were. Men are vilified. We all, no matter what goes on in the marriage, it's the guy's fault. And I'm not saying it wasn't my fault. I'll take full blame as to what I need to take blame for. But this separation was, something we never experienced. I was literally, I had left home, and I didn't have, I was on my own for a while. And then somewhere along the line, it was decided that I would take the kids to live with me. And so, now, mind you, this is all happening in this particular time. So I had my two girls at the time, and I was a single dad raising had these two little babies. Actually, Whitney was, Taylor wasn't even walking during this time. My second child, she was still an infant, like formula infant, right? I mean, it was still very small. And so now I'm a single dad with these two little girls. And I lived in Stamford, Connecticut. And so, during this time I had, my little girls trying to juggle. So I had people who helped me with them. And there was a young lady that helped me, a couple young ladies that helped me. Well, actually one in particular helped watch my girls. When I had to work late, they would help me navigate this. And so I was living in Stamford, Connecticut. And I was living in it was a duplex. And in this duplex, I lived upstairs, and upstairs where I lived, I had these two rooms. First of all, when I first moved into this space, I only had one room. I had access to the kitchen, and it had a whole living room. It was nice. It was a nice place. And an older woman and her husband lived there, but they lived in the basement because he was kind of unable to move around. Like, he was indigent somewhat. He can move, he can hobble a little bit, and he had some health challenges, and he had some psychological challenges as well. But that didn't really faze me, and I lived upstairs. And then once I took on the girls, I took another room. So I had the two girls, and they had their room, I had my room, and I lived upstairs. And so this was fine. And then at some point, the Lord directed me to a particular ministry, and the Lord told me to go to this church that I'd never been to before. I didn't know anything about this church for the most part. At the time, they had a recording out, and the recording was getting a lot of recognition. But I had never been to this church and know anybody at this church. But the Lord said, "Go to this church," and I was like, "Okay." So I waited a couple of Sundays, and I eventually just went to this church. And this was I went to this church before I went to visit church. My story's before I got the girls. So I went to this church, and I was like, wow, this church is a pretty nice church. And the church was called Straight Gate, and the pastor at the time, and it's the pastor now, actually, Bishop Wayne Powell. He wasn't a bishop at the time, Very thriving ministry, great music ministry. They had a lot of great people there, sweet, good church. And the Lord said, this is where you're going to heal. Because remember, I wasn't at my church home. I was kind of on the outs. I felt like I was discarded by my family and by my church family. Um, and you know how that goes, right? You feel kind of like, you're out on your own, and nobody's asking you what happened. They're just taking their whatever they believe happened. And so and that's fine, because you really can't. I didn't chase that. I didn't try to correct that. Only a couple of people reached out to me. Kathy Griffin, who's gone home with the Lord, she was actually the first one that reached out to me during this time, because remember, I wasn't just some member. I mean, not to be slight about it, but I was a minister. I was doing a lot of work. I did a lot of work in the ministry. I did a lot of street work, ministry work. I did tent revivals. I did a lot of ministry in the church. I had choirs. I was very engaged, I did some prison ministry. I did a lot. I was doing a lot of ministry. And so I wasn't just someone just leave because, but I had a lot of positions and things I was doing in ministry. And so now here it is, I'm no longer there. And I'm feeling kind of, whatever I'm feeling through this whole experience. And so Kathy Griffin, who's my cousin, also a pastor who's gone to be with the Lord, she called me and she said, "Hey, what's going on?" Now, she was one of two. Out of all the people that were in my life, she was one of two that actually asked me, "What's the deal, cousin? What's the deal?" Because it didn't make any sense to her. And so I told her, my side. I told her what was going on and from my perspective, and she said okay, and she listened. She didn't judge me. She didn't. And that's why today I have this patience for people. And I think people don't realize I preach hard. I do preach hard. I have a strong standard. I carry a high standard, but I do have great compassion and love for people. I really do. I understand human struggle. I understand plight. And I think the reason why the Lord let me go through these things, so I can have a compassion for people who go through trials and tribulations, and who go through ups and downs and disappointments and crises and drama and trauma and all these things. I really believe the Lord allowed me to go through these things, so I'll have a greater appreciation. There's a scripture in Ezekiel when the Lord tells Ezekiel that you must sit where they sat. And so I live that. I understand. So every time that I'm listening to someone's situation, a story, or plight, I always consider myself. I always consider my frailties, my faults, and that keeps me humble. That keeps us stable. That keeps us sober. And people make the mistake often, and they make the mistake in thinking they didn't got to show me some kind of performance or impressed. Don't waste your time with me. I really know we're all human and we all have faults and we all mess up. So anyway, so she reached out to me and she says, "What's going on?" So she listened, and I told her. And so she said, wow. And the second person that reached out to me during this time was Pastor Kersey. She wasn't my pastor at the time, but she had heard that I was no longer at the church. And of course, she got wind of the story and what was going on. And so she called me and she said, wow. First thing she said to me, she said, "I thought to myself that he is out there all alone by himself." She said, because she knows how these things go, right? And she said, "I thought to myself, wow, he's out there all alone, out there by himself dealing with this." And so she reached out, and again, it was just a wonderful encounter that she, again, my mentor, my pastor, who I love, respect highly, who had such a great love for God and really kind of, like I said, cultivated a lot of things in my relationship with the Lord. And even though at the time my relationship with the Lord wasn't where I wanted to be honest with you, but I was in this state, right? And so then after all that, I went to this church. I went to Straight Gate, and I'm sitting in the back of the church, and the Lord's telling me, "This is where you're going to heal. I want you to watch that man." So the Lord told me to watch Pastor Powell at the time. Just watch him. Just listen to everything he says. Just, you're here for that purpose. That's okay. So I was there for 2 years. And, during that time, I got the girls. It was me and my girls. So I was bringing them to church every Sunday. And I became a part of the ministry. I joined the church. I became a part of the music ministry. I had to do something. And I asked the pastor, I had a meeting with Pastor Powell. And I said, Pastor, please. I said, I'm an ordained elder. I was an ordained elder at the time. And I said, but I don't want to be recognized as an elder here. I said, I just want to heal. I don't want any position. I don't want to be recognized as a minister. I'm here to heal. I'm here to heal. And he said, okay. He never brought it up. Not once did he ever bring it up, who I was. And so, crazy enough that once I did leave the ministry, many people found that I was an elder. Like, wow, I didn't know you was an elder. Yeah, well, I asked the pastor not to mention it because I wasn't there for anything else. And I'm telling you something, I learned a great deal from Pastor Powell. I really respect him. He's another one who helped mold and shape my philosophy as it relates to the church and tradition. He really helped mold that into a sobriety of understanding how God interacts with us. And it was okay to be human. So he was one of those who really helped with that. So anyway, so here we go. And I'm almost done. So, I'm in this ministry, I'm healing. And so God is starting to deal with my heart about my marriage and about my family and the whole bit. And so, the Lord started dealing with me, and I started, talking to my wife at the time, my children's mom, and we worked it out. We went to counseling, we got some things straightened out. And so here we are, we're planning on reconciling. And so, and I'll never forget, it was actually sometime in May. I think it was May 15th, a couple of days before my birthday. And on that, I think it was May 15th, that date sticks out in my mind. But on that day, the day before, the day before, okay. So on that day, we had reconciled and we were moving back together. And so, we had finally, I had moved in a particular day. It was like on a Friday or a Saturday or something like that. I don't remember exactly the date, but it was like a Friday or Saturday, it was a weekend. And I had moved out of the place I was at. And I had moved into our home, our new home, which was now in Stanford. And so like you normally do, you move out an apartment. I told the landlady, I said, listen, and told them both. I said, we're leaving. I'm leaving because I was there still. Me and my girls are leaving. And I said, thank you so much for your time. I said, I'll clean up everything, make sure everything is, neat. I said, I'm moving today and I'll be back tomorrow to just tidy up. And so she said, okay, that's fine. And so on that morning, I come back to the house, and which was very odd because both locks were locked in the door. Never, for the whole time I was there, that was never the case, but I had the key for both. Both locks were locked. There was a hand door lock and there was a deadbolt. And I thought that was weird. So anyway, my children's mom and I, Gwen, her name is Gwen. We go into the house, go into the apartment, and so the gentleman, her husband, I don't want to say his name. I'm trying to keep the names out of it. But anyway, he's really irate. Man, he was old, he was limping, he was heavy, overweight, deranged. He had suffered from some kind of he had to suffer from some amnesia, some kind of Alzheimer's. I know he had some mental problems. He was in Vietnam and he had some real issues. And so I'm in the house and he's like, he's real. I've never heard him like this. I've never heard him irate. You mother, papa, bleep, 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 bleep. Like, whoa. And I was like shocked. I'm like, Well, you knew. I mean, we're leaving. I mean, there was no money issues. There was no. He was like, "You mother." Blah. He was I'm like, "Oh," I said, "Sir, well, I don't know what's wrong. I don't understand why you're. I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't know what I did, and I couldn't really. It was incoherent. I didn't know exactly what he was saying. So I just said, okay, listen. I don't know what to say to you. I don't know what happened. I don't know. Talk to your wife. And that she wasn't there. And so I just, okay, listen, I let him keep talking. I just went on and I walked upstairs. The way it was like a raised ranch, and you go up a flight and you go into this living room area, and then to the right there's a kitchen. And so I go into the kitchen, and I hear pow pow, and so this guy has a gun shooting at me. And I'm like, oh, now there's a couple of things that are going on in my mind. One, I'm thinking that it was kind of unbelievable that he had a gun shooting at me because I had done nothing to the man. But I knew that I was in danger, right? So I don't know why I did this, but instinctively I grabbed a chair in the kitchen. I put it up in front of me so that he could either shoot the chair or whatever. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know why I did that, but my first reaction was to grab the chair. And so I got the chair, and he's firing. Right? He's firing, and I hear a plate break, and then I felt something hit my shoulder, my left shoulder. Now, in my mind, I just thought that the plate hit my shoulder, and that's what I felt, which didn't make any sense at the time, but it made sense psychologically because it's just how I related to it. So I'm in there, and then all of a sudden I hear click, click, click. Now I'm looking out the window, and I can't jump out the window because it was shut down. It was no way I can get out that window. I'd probably kill myself trying to go to the window. So he stopped shooting, and he ran out of bullets. So when he ran out of bullets, I ran. He was now blocking. He was blocking the only entranceway. So he backed into the living room, dining room area, and I thought to myself, I'm gonna kill him. This is God's honest truth, y'all. I said, I'm gonna kill this dude. And there's something I believe is a spirit. The Spirit of God said to me, if you kill him, you're going to have to prove that he fired you and you killed him out of self-defense. And I said that wouldn't work because he's old. I'm talking, this is within a split second. And that's why I know it's the Holy Spirit. And now let me tell you, I'm just giving you a little side note. I really believe, saints, that those are the benefits we have having the Holy Spirit. Even though God has a way of talking to us. He can download information to your mind that just makes sense at the time to spare you from doing something stupid. And I believe that that's what that was. So I said, okay, well, wow, you're right. That's right. So I ran out, right? I ran out the house, and I remember my keys. That's how I made my keys. So I ran back in the house, and I knew exactly where they were. And I grabbed him and I ran out the house. He's coming out the house firing because he was in the house reloading. And he came out the house firing at me. Like I'm running up the street. Gwen at the time she's already out the house. When this whole thing, she was now she was actually behind him, right? So where he was focused on me, and she was behind him. So when he started shooting, she shot out the house, or she went. I don't know. She was not in the room. She was gone, which is smart. That was the best thing she could have done. And so we're outside, and he comes out firing, and his grandson and his son-in-law jump and dive on him and stop him and tackle him and take the gun. And so I'm outside. I'm like, this guy's crazy. Like, what in the world is talking? And then now, as I am kind of calming down, the adrenaline is coming down. Grace and peace, Elder Conquest. I hope you're feeling much better. as I'm coming down from the adrenaline, I feel this throbbing on my shoulder. I feel this pain on my shoulder, and I had a black jacket on, so you couldn't tell, right? It was black jacket, and then I was like, why my shoulder feel this way? And so I went to open up the jacket, and I had a white T-shirt underneath, and I looked, and it was the whole shirt was drenched in blood, and I was like, this dude shot me. This dude shot me. And Gwen was screaming at the top of her lungs. I said, you're gonna have to stop. You're gonna have to stop that screaming. She was all hysterical. And so so I said, this dude shot me, man. I was mad. He shot, like, what? So anyway, it's weird because, I didn't feel it, right? I didn't feel it. Not like that. And then I started feeling the pain. I started feeling the throbbing. And so, the ambulance comes, they arrest this guy, and the guy in the ambulance is telling me, you're gonna pass out, you're losing too much blood, you're gonna faint. And I said, man, no. I said, no, I'm not gonna faint, man. Just get me to the I didn't know if they hit an artery. I didn't know. You don't know. You got a gunshot wound. And he's just talking to me, trying to just don't relax. You're gonna pass out, you're gonna faint, you're gonna go on the. I said, no, I'm not. Man, listen to me. Stop telling me I'm gonna pass out. What I need you to do is to get me to the hospital. That's all I need you to do. I don't need you to tell me I'm gonna pass out. I was already annoyed. I got a gunshot wound in my shoulder. I'm like, man, he trying to tell me just relax. I am relaxed. I need you to stop talking to me about passing out, because I ain't passing out. That's not going to happen, Captain. So just stop saying that. You're getting on my nerves telling me I'm going to pass out. And he kept on. So, eventually he stopped talking, I imagine, or I just stopped listening. And I didn't pass out. I ended up in the ER. And they took me in, and of course, a gunshot wound. There's a whole bunch of raucous police officers in there, and they looked at my shoulder and they said, "Oh, I went in and out. It just chipped a bone." And so that's that story. I was in the hospital for, I guess, 4 or 5 days, I believe, and to this day, I got the wound, and I also have arthritis in that shoulder. I have a lot of pain sometimes. I work out, so I do have pain, and so the man was arrested, obviously, and then he couldn't stand trial. He was not fit to stand trial. He was clearly out of psychotic and has some mental issues. His wife devastated, because of what happened. These are older people. These are they were in their 70s. It could have been their 80s, and so I felt bad for her and the family. And the bullets were going through the apartment, so it was a duplex. And what happened was a couple of bullets went through the kitchen and into the apartment of his son and daughter-in-law, his daughter and his son-in-law. So they could have been killed in the next room, in the next apartment over from this whole incident. And so I wasn't the only one that escaped, but it was clearly I don't know how, to be honest with you. I don't know how he wasn't that far from me. If he was, I would say he could have been no more than maybe 7, 8 feet away from me. So he should have never missed me. He should have shot me with all. It was 6 rounds. It was a 38, and he should have gotten me. He was just that close. I was cornered. It wasn't a lot of room. I was against the cabinets. I couldn't run anywhere. I should be dead. There's no question in my mind that I should not be dead. And the Lord spared me on it. And so I am here now, able to do what I do because of that. Now, what's crazy about this story, it was the the day, it was one complete year that Gwen and I was separated, and I moved back in with her a year to the day that I moved out. So I want y'all to hear that. And on that day, that's the day that the enemy tried to kill me. The day after he tried to kill me. And so if you ever wonder why I'm so passionate about the things of God, if you ever wonder why I love him so much, if you ever wonder why I act like I don't deserve to be here, that I am here on assignment, that's why. Because I live that. And even the police officers like, man, he should have killed you. I mean, you were too close. We saw the shells, the gun shells, and you should be dead. I said, man, you ain't gotta tell me. And that's one of my stories. I got several, but that's one of my stories about how God rescued me or caused me to survive so that I could be here doing what I'm doing tonight. And that's why I'm very passionate about these testimonies, because the truth of the matter is we need to hear more about what God does for us and how he brings us out. We may not be able to tell our entire story, but all of us have something to say. All of us have something to share. It may not be long drawn out with drugs and prison and all the things that we hear from time to time, but the fact that you got your right mind, the fact that you're not 6 feet under, the fact that you are not in some prison somewhere, because the truth of the matter is it wouldn't have took that much more. Like the bullet that hit my shoulder, if it had moved a couple of inches, it would have had my main artery in my armpit, and I could have bled out. It could have been that he could have hit me, right? So we're not surviving just for the sake of surviving. We're surviving because God has a calling, a purpose, a destiny for our lives. And there are more people that we have to impact. There are more people we have to reach out to. And everybody may not, like I say, you may not have one of those stories where everybody is centered around hearing you, but you got your story. You got something to say to somebody. All of us have had those experiences where we knew and still know that if it had not been for God, if it had not been for his mercy, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 seconds, 2 steps, front, forward, or back. If you left right before it happened, you was there before it happened. Whatever it was, God spared you. And many of you, all of you, I believe, know that you were at a point to flip out. You could have took somebody out. You'd have been doing 25 to life right now. You thought about it. Somebody here, you thought about suicide. Your kids wouldn't even have you today. But God spared you. God had someone knock on the door. He called something to change your mind. Something distracted you. I don't know. I remember we were in Portchester, and we were doing I think it was Christmas or Thanksgiving. I forget which one it was. It might have been Christmas dinner. I think it might have been Christmas dinner. And we did a Christmas feast, like a Christmas dinner for whoever wanted to come. It was our whole ambition. Our whole purpose was to just, there are a lot of people who didn't have family. And so at the church we were at, we had a kitchen and everything. So we did a whole big dinner. And on the actual holiday. And I'll never forget that we were all, there enjoying each other, and the saints came, and, various ones came. And oh, wow. We got to hear that story. Tashay. I didn't even know that. Wow. I'm gonna put that on the screen. And so we were having a dinner. We having a good time, and white gentleman came in, and he sat down, ate with us, and had a good time. We laughed and talked with everybody. We was just having a good time. We were sweet, kind people. And he says to us, it was all we were at this table. He said, what's up, brother Ron? He said, I saw your flyer, because at the time back then, y'all, we had to put up flyers, and I was notorious for this. I put up flyers all in the projects, all in my apartment buildings. I had flyers everywhere, on poles at this train station. Good to see you, man. And so he saw a flyer at the train station, and he said he saw the flyer, and he said he was on his way to kill himself. And he said that when he saw the flyer, he figured, you know what? Let me just have one last meal. So this guy said this. He said to us, he said, let me have one last meal. I mean, this is free, right? Free meal. Why not? The church, yeah. So he came up and he sat down and ate with us, and he said, after today, he said, after today, you guys are so kind and you have so much love. He says, I'm not going to kill myself. He said, I realize there's something to live for. There are good people out here. There is good people in this world. So I'm not going to. And man, I'm telling you, that was, to hear that, right? I mean, just to hear that you could actually do one kind gesture, and you don't know why you're doing it. You don't know why God has you do some of the things that you do, but you do them because he presses upon you to do those things, because you don't know whose life you're saving. You don't know who you are causing to change their, when people, I'll tell you another story. And I'm sharing this with you because I want you to really, and I've shared this one too on here. I don't know who I told you to, but I this is a good one. I want y'all to, and the reason why I'm sharing this with you because I'm trying to encourage you to be and do what God has called you to do, and be who God called you to be. So like I said earlier, I used to go to the prison ministry. I had a prison ministry. I used to go every Sunday morning to Valhalla to preach to the inmates. And I've had a lot of different experiences here, but this is one of the ones that's kind of highlighted or never forgot. So I was in a prison, and on my way in, you kind of get familiar with the COs and the guard, COs and we had a camaraderie. So he was like, hey Rev, there's this young man who wants to come to your service. He's heard about you, he heard what you were doing, and he heard about your message. And he said, he said he wants to come. I said, oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he said, well, no, not this guy's different. He said, this guy, we can't let him out of restraints. He's got to come fully shackled. Every time he comes out, he fights with the guards. He's antagonistic. He fights with inmates. He's just absolutely unbearable to deal with. So, but we don't want to refuse him your service. He says, so are you okay with that? I said, no, absolutely, man. He said, we'll keep a guard in there the whole time. He'd be fully shackled the whole time. And I said, yeah, man, let him come on in. So, I'm in the room, and all the inmates start coming in. I knew some of the guys, and so they bring him in, shackled, CO with him, the whole bit. And that Sunday, I preached a message. I preached a message, and it was just what I had prepared. It wasn't that I just came with it. It was what I prepared. The Lord gave me this to minister, and the message was entitled "Freedom in the World of Captivity." And the message ultimately was that you can be free in your mind, even though your body is shackled. And so I talked about how you have the power to not allow your present circumstance to bind you. And it was a lot to it, which I'm not going to go into tonight, but that was a subject. So it could have been maybe 6 months to a year later, if not longer. I was at my home church, and I had did a trial, not trial. I had did a platform service. I preach. I think Pastor Oliver preached and Aaron Kelly, and we all had to preach on this platform. And so after the service, it was a great time. After the service, a young man walks up to me. Never seen him before. I mean, I didn't know I didn't recognize him. He walks up to me, takes my hand, man. Great message, man. I said, yeah, brother. He had a suit, tie on, the whole get up. I said, hey, man, yeah. He says, he looked at me, he said, you don't remember me, do you? I said, and I looked at him. I'm trying to remember if I knew this guy. I says, no, man, I don't. I'm sorry, brother. I don't remember you. I don't know. I don't remember you. He says, do you remember the day? It was a Sunday morning that you would go to the prison, right? I said, yeah, that was me. He said, yeah. And one Sunday, there's a guy that came in and he was all shackled and all, bound. And you preached a message, freedom in the world of captivity. I said, yeah, I remember that, man. He says, that was me. That was in chains. And he said, that message freed me. When I left that room, man, I knew I was going to change my life. And I'm telling you, I could have passed out. Right? Because, I mean, just think about that, right? Just think about that. And I made it a point. I made it a point to always tell people how they impacted my life, especially those who greatly impacted my life. I always try to make it a point to tell them how much I appreciate what they've done, because of that. You understand? Like that's so important, because you never know how much you impact people's lives. And so whatever you are doing, whatever you may be helping somebody, you may be doing something that you may seem be insignificant or never have any impact on anything. Your service in church, you may go to church and hand out fans or hand out programs, or maybe the usher, but you never know how much whatever you do can impact the lives of the people that you come in contact with. And I think that we have to be more cognizant, more aware that we are significant, and that you matter, and what you do matter, and what your gift is matters, and what your purpose does matter. And just because people may not know or may not say anything to you at the moment, somebody's going to show up one day and come and tell you. I remember my uncle Max, when he was of course he was still alive, and I never forget the Saturday the Lord told me to go tell him how much he meant to you. And I went to his house, and we sat down in his living room, and I told him, this is of course before he passed, and I told him, I mean, I didn't know he was going to pass, but I told him how much he means to me. I told him how he impacted my life. And I think it's, and I told I always will try to do that. I'll always try to tell people what they mean to me. I told my father, my father came here one day, and we were in the garage. I was working on some things, and I stopped and I said, Dad, thank you so much for the trade you taught me. Thank you for the lessons you taught me. I really appreciate that you made me learn this trade, that you made me do the things I did. I thank you so much. I said, you will never know. You may never know how much you impacted, how much you blessed me by doing what you did as my dad. And again, even though people may not do everything right, you may not do everything right. You may have some gaps in your life, right? You may have some areas and times that you may not cross all your T's or dot all your I's, and you may make some major blunders. But that doesn't cancel out all the good you've done. And don't let no one do that to you. Don't let anyone make you think that you are the sum total of your last horrific mistake or tragedy or misstep. Don't let people hold you to that. That's something you're gonna have to get over, because you do matter. What you do matters. Who you are matters. What you present, what you give, what you offer, it matters. And it may not matter to everybody, but it matters to somebody. So tonight I just want to share that with you. And again, I often know, I was telling my wife the other day, I said, I went to the doctor about this shoulder. And he said, the only way we're going to be able to fix that shoulder, man, is if we give you a transplant. You have to do a shoulder replacement. And I said, all right, well, I knew it was coming, but I've not decided to do that yet. But nevertheless, that's the story. That's really what happened. And what's crazy about that story, probably about a month or two before I actually got shot, I had a dream that I had gotten shot. The dream was in Stanford, and it was at Merle Avenue, the project's Merle Avenue. And I jumped, I don't know what it was. I don't know what I was doing out there, but I jumped. It was a dream. I jumped off the balcony and somebody shot me, and I felt the heat from the gunshot. So, but it wasn't the shoulder when I got shot. I don't know where I got shot in the dream, but and I didn't feel the heat from this when I got shot. In real life, I didn't feel heat because I thought it was a piece of glass that hit my shoulder. So I didn't really know I was shot until my adrenaline went down. But listen, I want to share that with you tonight. Again, I don't know what happened to our guest. I will reach out to him and find out what happened. But I hope this story helped you. I hope this time encouraged you. Like I said, we're all remnant survivors. If we're still alive today, we got through COVID, you got through your life tragedies, your life stories. You are a remnant survivor. God kept you around for these last days. So make the best of it and move forward in whatever God has called you to do, because you are more than you probably know. You probably are more than you know. You are probably more valuable than you have calculated. You probably have much more significance that people around you will give you credit for. You are a remnant survivor. God has got you here for these last days for a reason. So tap into that, and don't let no one ever tell you that you are the sum total of your last blunder, your mistake, or your badness. There's some good to you. There's some greatness to you. You just have to tap into that more than you tap into the negativity. All right. Have a good night. Love you all. And I hope to see you next week with our next guest. You'll hear about it as we stay tuned to my page. If you are not following, get your notifications. So when we do go live, you can get notified. But please, sir, please, ma'am, have a great week. Have a great rest of your week and be encouraged. I thank you for coming on. Those of you who are here, Vonda, you are some of you faithful folks. Lady Dozer, Barrett, God bless you, Deaconess Barrett, Ron, all of your Conquest, Elder Conquest, you guys are fantastic. Elder Woods, Elder Lady Miles, Taisha, good to see you, Lady Yates. Jackie, love you, sweetheart. Y'all all know y'all near and dear to my heart, and there's some others that I probably can't. Some people over here on Instagram, Brother John, I see you. Rose by Grace, and some people might be on YouTube as well. However, other was good. Have a good night. And listen, if you want a good church to come visit, we are located in Stratford, Connecticut at 318 West Avenue in Stratford, Connecticut. 318 West Avenue in Stratford, Connecticut. Don't forget, tomorrow is the blackout. I'm glad I remember this. Tomorrow's the blackout. Oh, God bless you, Martha Berry. God bless you. I didn't know you were on. I guess I don't know all these people that are on until y'all type in here. Tomorrow's a blackout. All right. So don't buy nothing from no other business unless it's a black business. All right. That's what we're going to do. We're standing in solidarity. So you got to get your gas tonight. If you didn't get gas, go, because we know we don't have many gas stations. But no, nothing. Just don't spend $1 on anything unless it's a black business. All right. So that's how that go. That's how that go tomorrow. Have a great week. Have a great night. And I'll see you guys when the Lord says so. All right. Be well in Jesus' name.